right? And we can get them back, right? And then the second part for that was, just being a former player, understanding how to get, your mind back into the rhythm of things. And, I'm pretty pleased. We are really pleased where he's at right now. If you guys were here for the game, the practice with the fans last week, it was great to see him get out there in that first drive and see that burst and that physicality in that first run. You know what I mean? That's a big deal for him. Hasn't been in that situation in almost 8 months. You know what I mean? For him to get out there and show that run was, I'm sure, a confidence booster for him. And it's kind of carried over into the week. You know what I mean? So he's continuing to get his feel and his rhythm back. I think right now we're at the next stage of just finishing his runs and getting his pad level down and all those things. But he's really progressing.
With Ramir, just how has his recovery been and what's he been looking like?
This is the best I've seen him thus far since I've been here. I think his focus, his physicality and protection, the way he's running the football, his burst through the hole. This is the best I've seen him. He's clearly determined and he's ready to play.
Gabe and Ramir, what is the process of coming back from a serious injury, not just physically, but from a mental perspective and regaining kind of that trust in your body?
It's kind of a big brother role for me in that sense, where I need to continue to remind them that failure is okay right now from a physical perspective. Like maybe your pad, your hips aren't down, and I don't want guys going to the tank like, oh man, I should have had an elite day. Well, hey, I had to remind Gabe, hey, this is practice 4 for you since October or whatever it was. So that's a big deal to continue to remind them, hey, because I need their confidence at a high level. You know what I mean? And those guys are very competitive. So when you do make a move or have a lack of burst, I don't want their mind going, oh man, I'm not back yet. No, you are back yet, but this is a natural progression, like you just said. Like it's going to take a couple reps here. It's not going to be practice 2. It's going to be maybe practice 10. So, yeah, I'm pretty. That's what we've been dealing with those guys.
You're talking about a guy like Ramir, I guess Gabe also. Where do you see their maturity really pay off? Where do you see it benefit?
I was fortunate enough to be assistant running back coach in Carolina and got a chance to work with McCaffrey and Coach McCaffrey a lot. So the best in the world, in my opinion. So the maturity of the group, I'd say, especially the guys that have been with me, we're at the point now where I think last year as a staff and as an offense, I was and Coach Rule, myself, and Coach Satt, we were trying to establish the way we run the ball, our DNA of running the ball. They had to learn that last year. I think the maturity, to answer your question, point now is now we've kind of shift gears. They know the standard of how we run the ball. They've understand the run schemes. They understand where their eyes need to be. Now it's about the details and focusing and harping on the second level reads, making guys miss in open space. How do we cut properly? Your first year, you don't have that much time to focus. You got to get the base down, and I think that's what we did last year with the group. And this year, you can tell by just by Emmett and Ramir, especially if you guys watch those guys in practice, how they're focusing on making guys miss at the second level. It's key for us.
How has Emmett Johnson grown as a pass protector?
He's grown a lot. I think last year was a really good understanding part, mental part, learning. As like I said, his first play last year was a big protection. So the learning part, was one thing. Now we're at the physical part. So now really harping on him that, we have to be 100% in every single rep during practice. That's key, right? So I think, with him as a young player last spring and last season, it was like make sure we get our eyes in the correct spot pre-snap. We got the right guy on post-snap. Now it's more so technique focus. The standard for you is you know the protections. Now it's a matter of making sure you're sound on your technique, and that's where he's really focused on right now is hand placement, body placement, leverage, those type of things.
Obviously, somebody's got to take the first carry or be out there on the first snap of the season. But are you really looking at like a top 3 versus a top 1, or could there be a separation between 1 and 2 and 3?
I think that my objective right now as the running back coach right now is to make sure we have 3 guys that can go win the game for us. And I think that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're going to have 3 to 4 guys that can go play and win the game for us. That's where we need to be. Let me rephrase that we can win the game with. that makes sense. And I think that's what we got right now. I think that's where we're working towards. We're really trying to push the tail end of the room with Quentin and Dante, and really raise those guys. And they've answered. Dante especially, he's really shown a lot of positive things this camp thus far. So to answer your question, I think it's about getting to game 6. What does that room look like, right? And right now, making sure the first half of the season we have a solid 1, 2, and 3.
What's Dante done to make that move?
I think when he first got here, he was kind of more so as a closer to a high school type running back, where he wasn't really using his eyes and was trying to use power for everything. He's really now is starting to understand tempo pre-snap. He's understanding reads. So he's really become from a short yardage, powerful kid to now transitioning to a guy we can put on every downs. And that comes with repetition and experience, and that's what he's getting right now. He's had a really good camp.
What about the top 3? What are the qualities you're looking for to say, okay, I'm cementing myself in this line as a guy that can be a guy?
Well, I think you're looking for 3 characteristics. You're looking for big playability, right? And I think you're looking for a guy that can pound the football, right, in 4 yards in a cloud of dust. And then the third part of that would be protection, right? So whether that's one person or that's 3 different people, that's kind of what you need in that room for that 1, 2, and 3. Does that make sense? So I mean, every team in football nowadays usually has 1 to 2 guys. Most average probably have 3. So that's kind of where we're at, and we'll see who that person is, right? We want to make sure that whoever that is, whether it's 1 person or it's 3 guys, that all those elements are covered.
So your order, I mean, I'm not asking you to give an order of your top 3, but is it Emmett, Ramir, and Gabe? Those are your top 3?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say it's defined. I'd say right now that top 4 right now is looking Gabe, Ramir, Emmett, and Dante really competing for that 1, 2, and 3. I wouldn't say that's been solidified yet. I wouldn't say that, but I think we're kind of getting to that point. As we get through scrimmages and stuff like that, but it's getting there, and they're practicing that way. The key is keeping them together and keeping them competitive. They for sure are competing, but also staying together.
McCaffrey for a second. The 2 seasons that you worked with him were the 2 seasons that he dealt with his injuries. What did you learn from those experiences working with him that you adapted to working with Gabe and Ramir?
So the thing that Christian taught me was the level of focus on basic fundamentals. I was very kind of nervous when I first started to work with him because he is the best in the world, and it's almost like, how do I teach this guy? What am I going to teach this guy? And really what we focused on was hand placement, aiming points, eyes, all those things. So that's from a coaching standpoint. That's what we do with our guys. And then what I learned from him is how elite he takes care of his body, right? So he's making sure he's staying hydrated, making sure he's eating properly, making sure, almost to the point where, it is the most important thing into his career is his body. And I think that's the benefit that I got to learn from him to apply to Gabe and Ramir. That's the reality. And even Emmett, right, even focused on getting him from a 187-pound back to a 205-pound back, right? And so that's a daily thing that Coach Rule, Kristen, they're doing a great job of, and Coach Campbell is the nutrition part of things. And I got a chance to learn that from and see Christian do that. So they're getting that from me right now.
Someone like Dante, what are the keys you want to drill in him mentally as someone who was like the man in high school, and you've got to build yourself up in that competition a little bit, where maybe you were the 4th or 5th guy entering a camp, but you have to work for it to get back into that top area.
Yeah. So what are you saying? What do I do to have to kind of motivate him? You're saying?
The mental part of like a guy who was the man, and he's got to go fight for it now.
That's right. I think that he's doing it himself. I think if you guys watch our practice, he runs the ball with a certain demeanor, and I think everyone gets excited about it, right, when he runs that with physicality. So I think he fuels himself off that. What I have to do now is manage, hey, you're not a battering ram. You have to make guys miss in space. So that's been his focus. At the second level, once I get through inside in between the tackles, where my eyes got to be. What do I have to do here? Versus, hey, I'm never going to take that ball out of you. I want that ball. I want you to run that ball like that. But you need to, in this conference, you need to be able to make a move at the second level, make guys miss. That's the difference, I think. Last year, we make a couple more guys miss in open space. We can have touchdowns versus, field goals. All right, so that's our key, is getting it to the second level. And that's where he's at. He's learning. But he gets motivated by running the football. That kid loves to run the ball. That's his motivation. Hope I answered that right.
Yeah, Emmett's always had confidence in himself, but you see an added layer to that after having played as much as he did last year and just what that brought for him.
Yeah, he's a completely different player from last year. Definitely, he is a guy that went from I had to teach to stop looking at the football, getting a handoff, to the point where now he is. And his brain, he's preparing himself to be the best. He's preparing himself. His preparation and his maturity over the last year has been phenomenal. It's night and day. He's a completely different kid than he was last spring.
How's Mekhi Nelson look getting here? You obviously wanted him in the room. What do you like about him?
That's right. I recruited Mekhi for quite a few years, and very instinctive player. Came in obviously this summer, so he has a lot of information to process in a short period of time. But what he's shown us as a staff right now is there's two things: he loves football, and he's got really good instincts. And if you were able to be here for the spring practice, I'm sorry, the camp practice with the fans last weekend, I think you guys saw that. I think he's very instinctive in open space. I think he's picking up things a lot faster than I expected to, and he's picking up the playbook a lot quicker than some of the other guys did last spring. So, I'm not giving him any. There's still a lot of work to do with him, but he's really impressed us so far.
You had mentioned some of the characteristics you're looking for the guys, to win that starting role or win playing time. I mean, how important is their pass catching ability in that, and how do you think the rooms come along as pass catchers?
I think the position itself has changed over the last 10 years about what a running back is. So we have to be able to catch the football out of the backfield. My first couple of years as a coach, we emphasized on ball security. To me now, that's an opportunity to get a check down and create an explosive run. That's a missed opportunity if we drop that ball. To me, a drop is just as serious as a fumble, and so we're focused on it this camp. And that's someone asked me that question earlier. What the difference is between this year and last year is we're working on details like that, right? Hand placement on routes. That's when you first get to a new team, you're not really coaching that with running backs, right? But that's where we're at now as a group. We've kind of excelled the standard. Now we're working on the next phase, the second level, route running. And it's imperative because you can't play at this level and just be a one-dimensional player.
Else for Coach?
Coach, what did you see from Mekhi Nelson? You kind of took a gamble on him coming out of high school. What did you see that other programs didn't really see with him?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I don't want to be arrogant when I say this, but I think from our experiences, Coach Rule, getting a chance to be his recruiting coordinator. I was at Temple, and we've learned how to evaluate as a staff. And I think evaluation is really important. And the process of evaluation, not just being able to, recruit, right? Just because a guy is not on a website doesn't mean he's not a great player. So the process of evaluation takes time, just like coaching. I think so that's what we are as a staff. We want to be really good evaluators, and so we're very confident we did the proper work on Mekhi. It wasn't a situation where we took a gamble. We watched him live. We had him in camp. We got him here on our campus. Got to be around him. So pretty certain. We were pretty sure on that decision. So got a chance to see him firsthand before we took him.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
How y'all doing?
Good,
Good.
for you.
Good, really good. Excited. Y'all can tell. Yellow Nebraska hat. I'm starting to trend.
Questions for Coach?
Coach, just how important is the depth that you guys have coming into this year and what this room can achieve versus maybe where you were last year?
Super excited about the depth. I think that's what's going to make it so much more fun in the season is because, I think our depth chart could change week to week based on how you practice and how you play in the game. And guys are going to be competing for catches at a really, really high level.
Hey, what have you seen out of Janier and Bonner so far? He's moved around a little bit, but he seems to be a big part of the offense.
Yes, you could kind of tell my face lit up a little bit talking about him. He plays football the way we like to play it. He's super physical on the perimeter, strikes and dominates contact at a super high level. He's got really, really big hands, so he can catch the ball over the middle. Fearless type of guy, so he wants to stick his nose in there, and he's an unbelievable teammate. He'll do whatever it takes to win.
I know you're excited about getting Malachi back and just his physical presence on the perimeter. What have you seen out of him and just, your blocking, the blocking piece of it for you guys?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he's such a big physical presence. I think he's came in today at over 200 pounds. Still want him to trend in the right direction and gaining weight and getting back to some heavier playing weight. But he's doing a really good job. And you see his kind of physicality transitioning into his route running, which I think is super impressive. You're talking about a big guy. You can win at the top of the route being physical. So that's been really, really exciting with him.
Hey, Garrett, how do you feel about having Carter Nelson in your room?
Oh, he's awesome. He coming from 8-man football, small town, I think I've been most impressed with just how he fits into the room, his personality, his competitiveness, in the recruiting process. We got to watch him play a few times, got to watch him play basketball. And I didn't really realize, how explosive of an athlete he really is, right? Obviously, you see him pole vaulting 19 feet and all that crazy stuff. But, man, he's an explosive athlete. He's dominant on the perimeter, a lot like Janirin when it comes to blocking. But he's a competitor. He wants to compete.
What was your challenge or your challenges to Ja'Cory this camp after a really successful spring getting here?
I think his biggest challenge is make the routine plays routinely. Because you'll see him, he flashes, he pops. He's special with the football in his hands. But also, I just want to see him run a snap route, get his depth, throw the guy by at the top of the route, and go win on third down. I want to see him. When we're running an occupy route, we don't have a ton of those, but I want to see him get his depth, get the guy open, kind of one of those PTF type routes. So I think that's his big thing, and he's trending in the right direction.
Hey, when you guys moved Carter Nelson to receiver, whose idea was that, and has it been much of a transition for you at all to bring him in there?
Not much of a transition. That was Coach Rule and Coach Sat. I think it was just, what's the best way to get him on the field the fastest, and learning our offense and, playing the position he's playing. He can almost get cross-trained a little bit, playing both in the slot, outside, and, in line at tight end. So he, year one, it's going to be a lot of jack-of-all-trade type plays for him.
I'm sure, when you guys brought in Banks and Nayor, everybody else in the room had to know you were bringing them in for a reason, right? They're seniors.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen some of those players adjust to the fact that these two guys are good, they're probably going to play a lot, and as a result, some guys have to step their game up?
I think it's been awesome. Those guys haven't shied away. You talk about Jalen Lloyd, who in the last 6 games have 3 TDs of over 50-plus touchdowns. And then, Malachi has the big catch versus Northwestern that helps us win that ball game. But both of those guys, all they've done is just rise to the occasion and competed with the best of them. I think that's the whole room is just there's a standard that's being raised every single day. And Isaiah and Jamal are kind of leading that charge, both from a physical standpoint but also a mental standpoint.
How do you like how Keelan Smith's kind of fit in?
Oh, he's done an unbelievable job, in the weight room with Corey, in nutrition with Miss Kristen. He's about 210 pounds right now, so he's a big physical player. He's smooth, savvy football player. He's got unbelievable ball skills, catches it in front of his eyes. He's just another one of those guys, kind of like Ja'Cory, of that freshman football, 18 years old playing in front of 93,000. It's a lot on a guy, but we just want you to go in there, do your job, make the routine plays routinely.
Is this a totally different camp experience for you this year? I mean, last year with the youth and inexperience you had in your room, and now just the experience you do have.
A little bit. We're still in Selleck, so that's the constant. The boys are having fun with that. I saw them play cards the other day. That was kind of cool, seeing that camaraderie. It's a totally different room, both from a confidence standpoint, and I think that came a lot from some experience that got brought into the room, experience from last year, and then also just what I can't say it enough, Coach Campbell and Miss Kristen and what they've done, just you look at them, their bodies are changing. Jalen Lloyd's at 179 right now. Last year he played probably 10 pounds lighter than that. So that's huge confidence when you look in the mirror and you see a bigger man.
It's been almost a year since IGC got hurt. Just how have you seen him bounce back after such a long time away from football?
Probably one of the proudest moments as a coach. That's a lonely deal. You talk about getting hurt August 31st, first game of the year, and you got to go a whole year waking up at 6 a.m. Doing rehab. You never know if you're going to get back. You're already talking about a guy who's been through some previous trials in his career, and then now he's weighing in at 198 pounds. He can bench press 225 22 times. He's a 500-pound squatter. So he's put in the work. You can see it. He made some plays 2 nights ago that were really, really freaking impressive. I'm really proud of him.
Hey, Garrett, with Carter, how do you structure things? You mentioned the transition from 8-man ball. How do you structure it so that, he's in a position to be able to do what you want him to do this year and also not miss out on like the education that he needs to be able to ultimately be the player you want in the end?
Right. Yes, sir. He's why you recruit a guy like that is because of how athletic and how big he is. So I don't want to outcoach that out of him, if that makes sense at all. So really right now we're focused on alignment assignment and then let your talent take over. Because once he gets lined up, he knows what he's doing. He's a special football player.
Garrett, Glenn Thomas mentioned that he saw some of you in Jalen Gramstad as an older guy, a quarterback. Do you see some of yourself in him too, or what's it been like getting to know Jalen?
Oh, shoot, he's a way better football player than me. Jalen football is what we call him in the office right now. No, he's got a great, confidence about him, moxie. You can see him already kind of running the huddle. He's got leadership qualities, obviously being a quarterback for so long. He's been impressive in camp.
Can you tell he's a guy who wants to be a coach someday too?
Yes, absolutely. He was actually it's crazy. I had no idea that this was actually him, but he came to our coaches clinic, and he sat in every coach's meeting. And then after, he pulled a few of us aside and just asked, questions about how to get in the profession. What's the concept type questions. And then next thing you know, he's at our post grad camp, and I was like, wait, aren't you? So it's pretty cool.
Hey, you like offense. How do you feel like the offense has evolved year 2 from year 1?
I'm very fired up for where we're at right now. I really, really am. I think we're playing to our players' strengths, not asking them to do things that they aren't capable of. I think we're putting the right guys in the right positions, and we're going to put the best 11 out there on the field, and we're going to put the winners on the field.
Can that best 11 be pretty versatile? In other words, like there's going to be circumstances where you really have about 17 guys, but you can kind of move them into different parts.
I think that's what Coach Satt does at such a high level. You look back at South Carolina, a guy that I always like to bring up is Jaheim Bell, who just got drafted in the 7th round by New England. He was playing tight end. He played number 1. He played in the backfield. He was pass protecting on 3rd downs, and he was carrying it on 1st and 2nd downs. And he's really a tight end type body, but that's just Coach Satt being creative and getting guys the football.
Coach, you were in the locker room at Baylor when Coach Rule was there and that transformation happened between year 1 and year 2. What is it about him that allows for that at the stops he's made, and do you see a similar fabric here?
The work, and then just the toughness, right? Like Coach Rule is a really, really tough person, and that kind of aura gets spread throughout the whole facility. A couple guys have said it, but when you walk in here, it's 4th and 1 every day. And that type of mentality, I think, drives us. And the people that like that are the people that are kind of always been around those OOU type guys. You see the players rise to the top that, have that 4th and 1 type mindset. All righty, thank y'all. Y'all have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Thank you.
Garrett.